What is up, guys? It's ya boy, Rick. You know, I'm something of a Destiny player myself. Cacus here. Guys, thank you so much for stopping by. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button to support the channel, and let me know what you think my next intro name should be. That comment section is out of control. Alright, today, we're going to be doing a little bit of a thought experiment within this video, trying to predict and prepare for the upcoming Season 15 meta based on things we know. And one of the most important things we know that has the highest likelihood of changing the upcoming meta is the fact that Anarchy, the best PvE exotic in the game, is getting a nerf. Now, how much of a nerf? We don't exactly know, but it is very possible that Bungie maybe goes a little bit overboard or hits it with a substantial enough nerf that people switch off of it. For example, some of the most common speculations I see about this nerf include not being able to double tick, only one projectile will do damage, or having to have the weapon out if you want to do damage. If you try to swap to another weapon, the projectiles will explode. Now, I have no idea if that's actually true, but that's a good example of a nerf that would be substantial enough to prompt a lot of people to switch away from Anarchy. Okay, so if they do, what are some alternatives? What are some of the best PvE heavy exotic weapons that can be used to replace Anarchy? Now, some of you may be thinking, wait a minute, why does it have to be a heavy exotic? And that's a good point. We could see the meta shift towards primary or special exotics, something like the Wither Horde to do an Anarchy impression, and then a legendary heavy grenade launcher. However, because the Anarchy has been on the top for so long, for literally years, many people have prioritized getting god rolls of specials and primaries. Stuff like the Uzume Sniper that came out, the Fatebringer, the Ignition Code, etc. There are so many fantastic, utter god roll legendaries in those two slots. A lot of people haven't necessarily prioritized god roll heavies because what's the point? You just use the Anarchy every time if you have it. So I think for a lot of people it would be easy to just replace that heavy exotic with another heavy exotic. And the first thing I thought of is machine guns. That's another thing we know going into Season 15. Machine guns are getting a buff for PvE. And I did a video on the legendary machine gun god rolls, the top 5 you want to be looking for, and the video did absolutely terrible. I don't know if YouTube just didn't tell anyone about it or my channel's dying again, but definitely, if you haven't seen it, I would recommend it. There's actually a lot of really good legendary machine guns to get right now going into this buff. However, there's also some really cracked exotic machine guns. Now, there is a chance that the exotics don't get buffed alongside the legendaries, but lately, when Bungie buffs a gun type, they buff the exotics as well. Just look at linear fusion rifles. All of the exotic linear fusion rifles got buffed. So maybe the exotic machine guns won't get buffed by as much, but they're likely to get increases. And the first one I want to draw your attention to is the Thunderlord. Now, you may be saying, oh my goodness, is this dingus actually saying that you're going to replace the Anarchy with the Thunderlord? Well, again, it depends on the severity of that Anarchy nerf, but y'all must have forgot. Y'all must have forgot just how good the Thunderlord was when it first came out, guys. This is gameplay from when the Thunderlord first came out, one phasing Riven. Do you know how many guns can do that? Like, almost none. It is a very small subsection of the highest DPS weapons in the game that are capable of doing it, and the Thunderlord could. Now, because of that, Bungie sensed that we were having fun, and they decided, no, that's not going to happen anymore, and machine guns got a 20% PvE damage reduction, and that's kind of why we're seeing them buffed in Season 15. They've never been able to recover from that nerf that was basically brought on because of how good the Thunderlord was. So if this buff even remotely puts the Thunderlord near where it was when it came out, this thing is going to be cracked. I mean, its perks are phenomenal for DPS, calling down lightning strikes for extra damage against a singular target, and for goodness sakes, it increases the rate of fire as well. That's insane for DPS. And you've got to remember, with machine guns specifically, and especially with the Thunderlord, you always have the ACTIUM war rig. This exotic chest piece for the Titan makes it so that machine guns will slowly automatically reload over time. So it extends the magazine size massively when you're using a machine gun. A lot of the time, it makes it so that you never need to reload when you're killing a singular target. So that's something to keep in mind in the back of your head. Whenever machine guns get better, there's always the ACTIUM war rig that could put them into the meta at any moment. But while we're on the topic of machine guns, the XENOPHAGE is absolutely a contender. I have much more confidence in the XENOPHAGE than the Thunderlord becoming a very good gun next season, because it's already a good gun. The XENOPHAGE right now is an S tier exotic. Maybe not quite S plus tier like the Anarchy, but you see this thing used in high level content all the time. I mean, I've used it in the Master Vault of Glass raid, especially when you're doing oracles, and it's fantastic at not only clapping oracles, but also one-shotting the hobgoblins and decimating groups of adds. It has been used in DPS metas before, especially, again, with combination of the ACTIUM war rig. I remember this being the meta choice for the Garden of Salvation raid for certain boss DPS phases. So you give this thing even like a 5-10% buff next season, and that's a lot. A 5% buff with a weapon that is already seeing a lot of play, that is already incredibly good at damage output. You have to take notice of that. So those are two exotics I'm definitely keeping my eye on, because we know machine guns are getting better, and it's likely these two will as well. But what are some other alternatives? Well, one is actually the Sleeper Simulant. This, as I alluded to earlier, got a massive buff this season. Not only is it doing around 16% more damage, more precision damage, but it's also got a 20% reserve ammo increase. So you just have more ammo available for this thing. And I mean, it can absolutely crack certain raid bosses like you're seeing in the background gameplay, especially Callie here, who has a precision head multiplier. The Sleeper Simulant is really able to take advantage of that. It hasn't seen a ton of play now because, again, the Anarchy is around, but if you're looking for a very high DPS heavy exotic, the Sleeper is absolutely something to consider, especially if we do finally see linear fusion rifles as a featured anti-champion gun type. It's very possible that we get, linear fusion rifles anti-barrier rounds next season, and in that case, like, I'd run the Sleeper Simulant 100%. Now, another heavy exotic I've got my eye on is the DEATHBRINGER. This thing recently got an exotic catalyst that has made it so much better. So, the DEATHBRINGER, when you shoot it, you can release it in midair, and then it drops other projectiles down that seek out enemies, and they increase in damage over time. The catalyst made it so that they increase in damage way faster, so it's really easy now to get max damage DEATHBRINGER shots. And if you hit all your shots on one enemy, the amount of damage you're outputting is really, really substantial. However, it can be a little bit difficult to use. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult to try to damage a singular target. Like if you have a champion you're trying to kill, but there's a bunch of adds around it, the projectiles will sometimes seek out the adds when you're trying to kill the champion, which isn't always great. But this is something that, again, it's very good right now. It just doesn't see a ton of play because why would you use it over the Anarchy? But again, it is a little bit difficult to use. And moving on, the last exotic I wanted to draw your attention to is one that hasn't seen play in a hot minute, but it's the Prospector. So this thing actually used to be one of the highest damage outputting weapons in the entire game, and it still has an incredibly good DPS output. The reason it doesn't see any play is again just because of the Anarchy. And one of the reasons that the Anarchy sees so much play is that these special grenade launchers right now are so dang good. Stuff like the Salvager Salvo, stuff like, you know, the Truth Teller with blinding grenades, the Ignition Code with Slide Shot. Those are all incredibly good special weapons. So you use one of those, and then you use the Anarchy, and then you can use Grenade Launcher, Finder, and Scavenger, and you're going to benefit from that increased ammo from both your special and your heavy weapons. So you're always getting ammo for both of those things. Incredibly good. Well, if the Anarchy is no longer viable, just replace it with the Prospector. It's a grenade launcher as well, so you get those double ammo mod benefits, and this thing is capable of outputting way more damage than your average, like, legendary heavy grenade launcher, especially because not only is it shooting faster than pretty much all of them, but it also has damage over time. It sets the targets on fire as well, so it has tick damage as well as the explosion damage. A really, really powerful weapon. And so guys, that's it for theory crafting today. What do you guys think? Are there any other heavy exotics I missed that you think are going to become a lot more viable if the Anarchy is no longer an option? Let me know in that comment section down below. Guys, if you enjoyed this video and found it informative, please remember to support it by liking and especially sharing. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.